Hello there everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I am very excited to share with you a spell from my book, the Calm Balm. If you, like me, are someone who desires a bit more calm, peace, anti-anxiety in your life, then this spell is perfect for you. Not only is it a wearable spell, so you can put it on daily or whenever you find yourself in need of a little extra peace, but due to its preparation as a balm, it is also a very mundane and easy practice to do if you are somebody who isn't that open about your craft. Balms are easy to carry in a bag or just keep on a shelf. They're a very normal thing for us to have, and they're also a wonderful giftable type of spell. So not only is it a subtle working of magic, but it is also a wonderful shareable, which those are always some of my favorites. So today, as I said, we are making a Calm Balm. The intent behind this is anti-anxiety, calm, peace. There's a couple different ways to work it. The preparation style is a salve, and my preferred timing for crafting this salve is during the waxing or the waning moon. The only difference between the waxing or the waning is the intention that you put behind it. If you're crafting during a waxing moon, I would recommend putting a increased calm, increased peace intention behind it, whereas if you're crafting it during a waxing moon, something like decrease anxiety or decrease worry would be ideal to work into the spell. But of course, if you need to make this spell right away and it's not that time of the lunar cycle, that's all okay. Just work with it, alter the intention as you need to, and this is really just something that adds an extra oomph to the working and isn't that necessary at the end of the day. Now, like I said, this spell is from my book, and there are a lot of instructions in the book that are useful if you want to look at that, if you have the book already, or if you want to get the book. If you don't yet have my book, it is all about herbal magic and green hearthcraft and the spellcraft surrounding these styles of practice. If you don't practice this way, it is still useful. There's a lot of just beginner spellwork understandings. I will have all the links for it down below if you're interested. And if you have the book, you can find Calm Balm on page 214. Alrighty, with that out of the way, let's jump into the ingredients and materials you'll need. First and foremost, let's delve into the materials. Here you'll need a heat-safe glass jar, a medium cooking pot, a jar ring, that's optional but I do recommend it, a stirring implement, a tea towel, an extra jar or container for straining, along with a tin or another container to store the finished balm. Additionally, you may wish to have a knife or a mortar and pestle if you want to break down the herbs a bit more. Because this is a solely magical preparation, it's not necessary, but it is a good way of infusing a bit more intent. I did lose my mortar and pestle in my last move. I have to find it, so I won't be using that in this video, but I do recommend it for the extra oomph if you can. You may also like a cooking thermometer. I'm pretty used to knowing what it looks like for the temperature it needs to be at, along with a funnel if you prefer that for straining the herbs. Now onto the ingredients. Here you'll need 1 part chamomile, 1 part lavender, 1 part lemon verbena, a bit of water, 4 parts olive oil, 1 part finely grated beeswax, and 3 drops of essential oils, though that part's optional. The herbs can be fresh or dried, but I do recommend using dried for this purpose. I often prefer fresh herbs in medicinal preparations, depending on their properties, but for magical ones, dried is usually my go-to. Fresh herbs can increase the chance of spoilage and will shorten the shelf life of your salve, whereas dried ones don't have as much of an impact. Now, speaking of calm, before we get too deep into this video is sponsored. So let's hear a little bit more about that. Today I'm very excited to once again be partnering with my favorite mindfulness and sleep app, Aura. I'm someone who deals with a lot of sleep issues, anxiety, and day-to-day stressors, but I found after working with Aura for quite a while now that it's been one of the best and most consistent aids when it comes to helping with these issues and increasing my overall well-being. As you may know, Aura is a mindfulness and sleep app that won the Best of Apple award and is used by over 7 million people. It's an all-in-one app for well-being and sleep with thousands of meditations and stories, along with CBT, life coaching, breathwork, spirituality, and more, created by hundreds of expert coaches and therapists around the world. As I said before, it has been a huge help when it comes to aiding with my sleep and anxiety, and it's brought my general day-to-day stress to a very low and easily manageable level. I absolutely adore how much variation and personalization there is within the app, and with hundreds of coaches, therapists, and storytellers, there are endless tracks to love. Personally, I'm a big fan of the soundscapes, in particular any involving rain, and all in all, I've never found an app quite like this one, and much less one that's worked for me. I'm usually not much of a phone person, but to have Aura in my back pocket to help me through the day has helped me feel so much better every single day. So if this sounds interesting to you, get started for completely free on Aura's website using my special link in the description, and the first 500 people get a free trial plus an exclusive 25% off. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. Alrighty, welcome back. Let's start getting into crafting. So to begin, we are going to work by adding each ingredient one by one to our heat-safe jar, working to infuse our intent along the way. This can be done in many different ways. I do have a video on intent that I will link down below if you're interested. As I said before, if you would prefer to work with a mortar and pestle here, you are very welcome to do that before adding the herbs into the jar. I just don't have mine, so I will be skipping that step. Now, I do know the exact amount of each part that I want to add, but because it is purely magical, I am going to go on what feels about right. I know in general how much it will be and what it'll look like, but when it comes to magic, I do prefer to go based off of feel than just perfect measurements. I did struggle a bit to open the chamomile, but that's okay. A problem for later, I suppose. Now that all the herbs have been added and the intention's been set, it's time to add in the olive oil. I don't believe I'll ever get over how beautiful herbal practice is. Alright, so now that the herbs and oil are prepped, it's time to do a hot infusion. When it comes to making salves, the first step is to make an infused oil. That's the step we're on right now. I do have a full video detailing the complete steps of this, both a slow infusion and a hot infusion if you're interested. Again, they'll be linked down below. But today, as we're doing a purely magical practice, and I would like to get this done a little bit sooner than a long infusion, we will be making a hot infusion. This does require a bit of time, but not nearly as much as a long infusion does, and the steps are quite simple. So first and foremost, I need to clean up a bit of this workstation and pull out my next materials. So to make our hot infusion of this oil, we're going to take our jar lid, if you're going to use one, pop it in the bottom of the cooking pot, place our jar on top, and put water around it, making sure the water is at the same height of the herbs. If it's higher, it will make the jar float, so be careful. Now we're going to heat our oil and keep it between 100 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the best range for this kind of an infusion. At this point, we're going to continue to heat the oil for 4 to 6 hours. I know that's a long time. You can do less if you need to, but it's how we get this good, rich infusion. Make sure to stop by every now and again, give it a stir, infuse your intent while doing so. And also keep an eye on the water. It will evaporate throughout this process and you just have to refill it every now and again. And of course oh, there's a spider coming down. Hello, little one. I don't know if you'll be able to see him. Oh, there he is. All right, let's put you outside. Be right back. Alrighty, sorry for that, but I am back. Of course, with all things that involve heat and stoves and things like this, be sure to keep an eye on it. Don't leave it unattended for safety reasons. But all in all, this step is pretty simple and just more of a waiting game than anything else. So I will be stirring and I will see you in about 4 hours. Now that the 4 hours have passed, it is time to take it off the heat and let it rest for overnight. If you want to do it in one day, you can do it in one day. Just let it sit and infuse for another couple hours if you can. Or if you must, you can jump into the next step once it's cooled down a bit. But for now, I'm going to take it off the heat and I will see you in the morning. Now just to let this set overnight. Hello, it is the next day. I just uncovered the oil and it is looking beautiful. Next steps here is just to strain it, pop it back on the stove in that double boiler setup we made, and cook it down with the beeswax to make the salve. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Let's just get started, shall we? When it comes to straining the herbs out of the oil, I personally prefer to use a tea towel. You can also use something like a cheesecloth if that's preferred for you, or a strainer. I like tea towels. They're durable, reusable, and they filter out the herbs beautifully. But of course, it's up to you. Alrighty, so now we have our infused oil. I did just give this jar a quick rinse so I could use it again. Hello, Mr. Helper. Along with the stirring implement. Now just to add back in the oil, add some beeswax to this, heat it all up till the beeswax is melted, and then it's just about done. So let's get started. Alright, so now that it's off the heat, I added a little bit of shea butter. This is something I've been experimenting with lately. Usually I add coconut oil or something else just to make it a little softer. And once this is fully dissolved in the oil, I will add my essential oils just for the scent, and then I'll add it to my tin. Or rather, it's a glass jar. Whatever you have. Now just to let this set. Alrighty, so now we just have to wait for it to cool completely before use. This balm can be applied to the hands, the temples, or anywhere on your body that you may feel would help benefit some peace and calm. Hands are really easy, but heck, you could put it all over if that's what you need. I really need to get a bang trim. This balm will last for 1 to 3 years, depending on how it's stored, how it's made. If you use fresh ingredients, it'll last shorter than if you use dried. And sometimes they just don't agree with how they've been used. Clean hands tend to be best. Sometimes if they've been left out in the heat, there are many factors. But point being, it'll last a while. Just keep an eye on it. If it looks spoiled, it's time to start over and make a new one. But all in all, it's a wonderful, fun, simple practice. As you know, balms and salves are my absolute favorite thing to create. And so I've had a great deal of fun doing this. One thing I do want to talk about with the ratios thing, because I realized I did not touch on that earlier. So when it comes to figuring out how many parts of each ingredient you'll need, you need to observe your container and how many things will be left over at the end. So while we start off with 3 different herbs with 1 part each, 4 parts of olive oil, and 1 part of beeswax. The 3 herbs that we add are not going to make it into the final product. So really what we need to do is take the measurement of our final jar or tin, break that down into 5 parts. That's accounting for the 4 parts of olive oil and 1 part beeswax. Figure out what exactly that breaks down to. In my case, the easiest way for me to measure it ended up coming to 2.5 tablespoons per part. Now, I do recommend using a little extra olive oil in the beginning. This way you know you'll have enough of the infused oil to put in, and if you have a little extra infused oil, that's way better than not having enough. Just make sure to measure it out to the proper amount before adding in the beeswax. Additionally, as I said before, the herbs I went a little loosey-goosey on, and that's okay, you can do that as well. But if I were to go perfectly scientific on this, I would have done 2.5 tablespoons of each herb as well. But again, because they get taken out, they aren't a part of that final ratio. I hope that makes sense and helps for those of you that are trying to figure out exact measurements or how much you need for each part. It will be different for all of you depending on the final holding container for the salve and balm, but it is pretty easy to figure out if you just divide it by 5. And with that, I hope you enjoy. I always love to see your creations if you make this or something similar, and tag me on Instagram. It makes me so happy to see. I also adore just a comment saying that you did it. It means the world, and I just feel really happy that what I create is being made. As with everything, you are welcome to switch up the ingredients as needed. There's a lot of directions in my book on how to do that if you're curious, and I have talked about it a million times on this channel. And with that, I think it's about time that I closed out this video. So thank you so much for watching. If you can and would like to, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. There I share art, herbal profiles, book recommendations, and monthly workshops. It's really what keeps things running over here, so I cannot tell you how grateful I am to all of you over there. I also have another channel. There I share more herbalism and herbal magic and just day-to-day things. It's where I get to be more creative, and I really loved over there, so if you want to see more from me, you can check that out. Also, as we know, I've got my book, so all of these things will be linked in the description down below, along with the 2 other videos I mentioned throughout this video. And with that, thank you again. I hope you're all doing well, and I can't wait to see you